What's up, YouTube friends? Welcome back to the prep series. As of now, I'm 20 weeks out from my first show. Checked in with Compton. I'm sitting now this morning at 263, down from 270 on the dot. That's where I started the diet. Couple updates in terms of the diet. No changes to cardio. That remains 4 times a week, 25 minutes each. Actually, no, sorry, he did update that. Funny enough, 5 times a week, 25 minutes each. I do that on the stairs in the morning, fasted. Diet, couple little changes to the diet. He pulled out some of the added fats that I was doing with olive oil. No changes to the carbs or protein. No changes to the gear or the PED protocol at large. So pretty minimal changes so far. The diet is still it's still a big relief compared to what the peak off season was, but also I'm still nowhere near hungry, really, which is fine. All the food goes down. It takes much less time to eat, though, which has been a positive. I just finished up an upper workout. Anybody that's just joining or hasn't watched the other ones, I'm doing upper lower. I do 3 upper days, 2 lower days. This was my second upper day of the week. You guys will see some of the clips. I start with a lateral machine. I didn't film that. It's the same old thing. I do it all 3 upper days, and I just do them in different rep ranges. I do them with different weights each time. So 4 sets there. I do a couple sets of this prime chest supported row that you guys will see. I like this. I don't love the handles that are currently on it, but I love the machine itself. The gym that I'm in recently got rid of the kind of hanging chest supported T-bar that I would typically use, but there's another one coming in, so while I wait, I'm using this in the meantime. Then I had this cable lat pull down. I really like this. The gym that I'm in has the Nautilus pull down, which is very similar to using this cable. I have just found that using the cable, I have a little bit more flexibility in terms of my arm path and allowing my humerus to kind of slide in front of my torso at the very top and really force the lat to stretch around the front of my rib cage. And if I'm being honest, thinking about the prep in the long term, it's probably a little bit easier to just use a cable stack than it is, you know, loading 3 or 4 plates aside on the Nautilus pull down. So that's why I'm using that. Like that a lot. What are we doing here, buddy? From there, I moved to this old school Strive chest piece. I use this a couple times a week as well. I just love the diversity of it, where you can move the seat up and down. You can change. There's 9 different loading profiles on it. So Strive is basically the original Prime. And I also love that this piece has kind of like a kickstart at the bottom where you kick it out with your feet and it gets you into pressing position. So, being that I've had pec injuries in the past, a lot of the starting positions of most chest presses in terms of machines, you know, they start you way at the bottom, and it just feels like that initial push out of the hole. I feel like something is going to tear. So I really like that I can kick out from under this. So I use this a couple times a week. You'll see that. And then I didn't film. I just did some more shoulder and arm work, bis, tris, rear delts. All of these upper days look very similar. It's just I'm just varying, you know, the different choices of movements that I'm using. So, you know, it's typically a side delt movement, upper back movement, lat movement, chest movement, bis, tris, rear delts. So it's just a different variation each time. So that's everything. You guys will see the diet when I post that up. Like I said, one additional day added to the cardio. What I'm going to get to here again, since there was a good response last time, I took prep specific questions from people on my Instagram, and I'm going to get to these now. So right off the bat, somebody asked me, do you dump blood? I don't. I think this is one of the silliest things that has become normalized in bodybuilding. You're going to have to wait, Bill. I think the idea that it's normal that we have to go and donate blood 4 to 6 times a year to keep your blood markers in range is like so silly. It's so like preposterous. When you think about it, it's just a temporary Band-Aid, and you're not getting to what the root of the issue is. So for me, my PEDs and my health supplements are organized thoughtfully, so I never have to go do this. My blood markers are in range all year, no matter what I'm on or how much I'm taking. And so this idea of being in this cycle where you are out of range, you have to go donate blood, and then that keeps you in range for a little bit, but eventually you come back to being out of range and needing to donate again, is just so silly. It's just such a temporary Band-Aid instead of fixing the issue. So no, I don't dump blood. I don't recommend that anyone does either. A handful of people in different ways basically asked, what is different in terms of my prep this year versus other years? And you guys have to understand, this is my 11th year competing, so I've done it all. So in terms of what's different compared to what I've ever done before, nothing is really different. And I wouldn't say that any prep, and no two preps are the same. So it's not like I've had one specific style of prep that I've always done, and then now this time there's something different. I would say I'm in a much better routine from day one of the prep. Even before the prep began, I was in an awesome sleep schedule where I'm in bed by 9 or 9:30 every day. I'm up relatively early, especially considering I don't have any reason or schedule that requires me to be up at a certain time. So I'm in bed by 9:30. I'm usually up by 7 or 7:30. And so usually I've always been a night person, and I'll stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning eating all my food, and then sleep till 10 or 11, something like that. Then eventually, as you get exhausted and you start eating your food earlier, you get into a better sleep routine, like starting at like 8 weeks out or something. That's been the case. So I've never been in such a good routine this far out. I started fasted cardio, like I talked about, from day one. There's been times where early on in the prep, I'll do my cardio post or whenever it's most convenient. And this time I just made a pact to myself that I'm just going to do all the cardio fasted. Practice and posing, I have a set number of sessions that I do per week. I've never started that this far out. And I think, besides the X's and O's, the biggest thing that is different, or something that is completely different or completely new compared to other years, is just the mentality that I've taken into it. I'm trying to really enjoy being in the diet and looking at it like this is a privilege for me to do. And I don't know how many more of these I'm going to get to do. You never know. People get injured, people have their health go to shit randomly, or whatever the case is. So I'm just grateful. I'm just trying to stay positive. Especially with the gym that I'm training in and the type of people that go to my gym, I've made it a point to seem more approachable and be a little bit more open to having conversation and being social while I'm at the gym. I'm purposely training without headphones, so that kind of adds to how approachable I think I seem. And it's just made me feel more immersed within like the bodybuilding community, because that's really most of the people that are going to the gym that I train in are serious lifters in one avenue or another. So yeah, those are the things that come to mind that are different. I had to write these down since I'm recording on my phone. What aspect of prep has been most difficult for you in the past? How will you change that? Two things come to mind. One of them, the most obvious one, is the physical exhaustion that happens at a certain point in prep, and then how that affects your training and your enjoyment from training. And I thought about this, and there's really no way around it. Like, if you're getting in really excellent bodybuilding conditioning, you're just going to feel exhausted at some point, and it's going to feel like a chore going to the gym. And there's really no way around that. The second thing that comes to mind is I've definitely, the second half of prep, or, it seems like whenever I put Tren in, my mood just becomes terrible as a standard, no matter what. I'm just miserable. I'm impatient, I'm irritable, and that's not really who I am most of the time. I'm pretty easygoing. I feel like for the most part I'm pretty positive, and I enjoy life. And then Tren goes in and I become a different person. So, in terms of what I'm going to do to combat that this year, I talked about this with my coach, and I'm just flat out not going to use Tren this prep. And I'm going to basically use it as a self-experiment and see how it goes. I mean, I'm not expecting that it would change the look that differently or that much. And I expect it to have a really positive impact on my mood and, how I am around the people that I interact with every day. I'd imagine that I'm going to enjoy the process quite a bit more. And then one big plus that will come from this is that I will have this in my toolbox of experience for coaching other people. And I may come to the conclusion that it's, not totally necessary, or, should be on a per person basis. Whereas right now it kind of just seems like across the industry, the standard is once you reach a certain point, Tren goes in. And so I am going to test that theory out personally, and we'll see how it goes. Let's see. Last one. So the difference, someone asked me, what has the difference been between being in an office every day and working like a corporate job versus prepping while you work for yourself and you work from home and you're just home most of the day? The big difference is that I think in terms of feeling hunger and feeling food focus, or just always wondering about when the next time you get to eat is, that goes up a notch when you're just home all day on your own time. When you're out at a job and you're clocked in, you're on someone else's schedule, you don't really have time to worry about that stuff. And you should be so busy at work that you just look up and it's time to eat. So it can make the days go by a little bit slower, and it can make you a little more food focused just being at home. Now, I understand completely, it's an enormous privilege to work from home or work for yourself and not have to go to a corporate job. So I would sound out of touch if I didn't point that out. My personal bodybuilding took off big time, being able to work for myself and work from home, not needing to be up on a certain schedule, or if I need to nap during the day or before training or whatever the case is, I can do that. You're not pressed up against the clock, and it's not a rat race all the time. So that can make the prep much more manageable, much more enjoyable. The other part of that is being home. You're home by yourself most of the day, or at least I am. Whereas if you go to an office, you're around other people. And I've had both situations where the people that you're around at work are supportive and understanding, And that can be really cool. I've also been around people that are dickheads, or they just don't bother to try to understand what you're doing, and it becomes more difficult, it becomes more irritating. So I think it just depends on who you're around all the time. So for me, I tend to be a little bit more introverted when I'm going through something challenging or difficult. I would rather just go through it by myself. And so, mostly being home by myself and working from home, that allows me to do that. So that's everything, I think, for this week. I could probably rant on. If you guys listen to the podcast, I have no problem being able to talk and fill up time. So I'll cut it here, and I want to thank everybody that's checked it out or watched any of the previous episodes. If you don't, check out the One More Rep podcast on this same YouTube channel. Until next time, guys, I'm out of here.